I know I'm going a wee bit noob 3 on you here, but don't worry. I got a couple of video ideas. I've got the thumbnails made, and I'm going to be uploading a lot more these days. I just hadn't really been able to get any decent video ideas, but I sort of brainstormed a couple there, and now I'm going to get to working on them. I don't want to just pump out garbage. That's not really how I'm doing it. I'm doing this channel for fun, and if I don't want to make any videos, like I don't want to force myself to. But anyways, in this video, I'm actually going to go and talk about a question that I think is actually much more important and is never asked in Debate, and that's if we should balance around the top level of play. When I say top level of play, I don't mean like rank 1. That's not the top level. Anyone could be rank 1. But when I say top level of play, I mean roughly around me. Now, unfortunately, I am the top level, but in let's say a game like Apex right here, I'm not at the top level. I'm just as good as Apex as I am at Dead by Daylight, yet in Apex, I'm probably in the top maybe 30% of players at the most. Whereas in Dead by Daylight, I'm probably in like the top 1% of killers. And I'm not even, and I shouldn't be. That's not to say I'm not good at Dead by Daylight. I can admit that I am good at Dead by Daylight without trying to sound too cocky. I'm good at the game. But I shouldn't be in the top 1%. I should be maybe in the top 15% killers at the most. I've only got like 600 hours in the game. I shouldn't be that good, but I am. And I'll tell you why. Most of the Dead by Daylight player base are shit, including the survivors and the killers. On both sides, the average Dead by Daylight player is really bad at the game. This is because behavior balance around these shit players. Now, behavior don't realize that they're shit. They just think that they're maybe average. But to me, the average player is really shite at the game. So when I say they're balancing around these guys, I mean that they're nerfing things that take high skill, and they're not balancing around high potential. When people say buff solo shit, like I disagree with Scott John. He says solo is the worst thing in the game. I disagree. I think weak killers are the worst thing in the game. So you can say killer is the worst, but I don't think that's right because there's such a massive gap between low tier killers and high tier killers. Like it is a completely different world playing Nurse or Spirit than it is playing like Clown or Wraith. So 4 decent solos could easily wipe a good Clown. Easily. All 4 escape, no bother. I guess even a good Clown, if 4 decent solos. Like absolutely they could do that. But I think if you balance around the top level of play, that shouldn't be allowed to happen. Balance around the top level, which is me by the way. I'm not talking like these god nurses and these 4-man sweat squads. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about good players. 4 good survivors, 1 good killer. That's what you need to balance around because it trickles down. Recently in Apex, the devs have been talking about nerfing Caustic. His ultimate, which you just saw me throw there, that cast bomb. People have been complaining about that in the final circle like this because they're saying it's uncounterable. Now, this is because in very high levels of play, there's like 5, 6 squads left in this final circle, and Caustic becomes very strong during this. The devs are actually looking at Caustic, just saying we're taking a look at and we're going to try and sort this out. That's them bouncing around the top. This is a good decision because casual Caustics will probably get nerfed. But that's going to just force these players to get better. Alright, if you keep catering to these bad players, they're never going to get better. Like, that's just how it is with Dead by Daylight. When they're they're bouncing around these shit players, which makes them feel like they're better than they actually are. So then we get into this loop of basically people thinking that they are average at the game, that they're decent, when in reality they're really, really shit. The average survivor should be about as good as me as Survivor. I have so little time as Survivor. About maybe even less than 5% of my gameplay is spent playing Survivor. And I'm still constantly the best player at each match. That shouldn't be the case. Survivor, let me tell you something. As someone who plays so many games, I've played so many games in my life. I've been playing games since I was a wee lad. I've played so many games in my life. So many online games. I can tell you right now, Survivor in Dead by Daylight is the easiest PvP experience I've ever played. It's so easy. Like, compared to like, you can look at the background gameplay here of Apex. Look at how look how much different like the average people are. Like this is me, like a couple of days ago. I wasn't even playing too well here, but you can look at the difference. The average survivor in Dead by Daylight is so terrible, and they're never going to improve because the devs are balancing around these guys. Like they're not going to get better if the devs constantly uh, balance around them because they won't know anything. They won't notice anything. They're just going to keep winning and losing and winning and losing against these bad and good players over and over, and they're never going to get better. But the good players like myself and some of yous are going to notice how imbalanced DBD is because yous are going to win every game until some decent survivors come along and just absolutely wipe the floor with you, and there's nothing you can do. There's like, tell me what you can do as like an average killer against four survivors who just do generators a lot. Like they split up, they do generators constantly. There's nothing you can do. I've seen it many times, it's happened to me many times. It's not even a case of get good, it's just there's not much you can do. Unless you want to play super scummy and sweat super hard, there's really nothing you can do in those situations. So, what do I mean by balance around the top? Like, if you're saying balance around the top, like, what do you mean by that? Well, you just sort of gotta look at the big problems here. In my opinion, some of the biggest problems here when you're going against good survivors are simply just perks and survival friends. Having comms, having communications is so insanely powerful. It's so powerful. Like when you think about it, survivor friends basically by default gives each survivor in that team about 10 of the perks in the game. So many perks, simply by just being in a survivor friend. They need some sort of balancing. They need some sort of debuff. Like people say that the best thing to do is bring killers and solo up. But I don't really think that's possible because trying to bring solo up, solo doesn't need to be brought up. Survivors just need to get better. Like when you're losing games, is it really because the killer was that strong or good, or was it because your teammates are just shit? I win a lot of games as Survivor. The only ones I lose is just when I have really shit teammates. And then when I win, it's because my teammates were adequate. You need to balance around the top of Dead by Daylight. I think we need to because the game's gonna die. The game will die if we don't balance around the top. Right now, behaviour are just sort of balancing the game around people who will buy Dead by Daylight. They will play it for a bit, maybe get 20 hours in the game and leave. That's how they're balanced. They're trying to keep these players coming, you know, and that's not sustainable for a game. If you notice, all the games that have been alive for years are all games that balance around the top. Dead by Daylight's losing its veteran players because it's not balancing around the top. Like me, I'm just getting really sick of Dead by Daylight. I can't play it anymore. Performance issues and just balance issues are just enough to drive me away from the game. Because I don't like losing to people who just didn't outplay me at all. I hate losing because they all are dead hard and my chases got extended by like 20 seconds each time. You know, I hate losing because loops are just so strong and there's one after the other and they're just splitting up in gens each time. I don't like that. Because I'm not getting, like I said, I'm not getting outplayed. I'm simply just getting outgamed. Like, the game is like, it's so imbalanced at the top level. It's fine. Like, you get these YouTubers, like, oh, it's going on 50 win streaks. He loses them a couple of times, but here's the thing, going on a 50 win streak, I've probably gone on 50 win streaks accidentally. Now, maybe not 4Ks, but like definitely 3Ks at least. I've probably gotten them accidentally because I don't notice until I come up against a good team, like a really good team, and just get my ass handed to me. Now, as someone who I think I am pretty good at the Dead by Daylight, I shouldn't be losing this hard to teams that aren't even that good. Like if I'm playing Death Singer and all my chases are like below 30 seconds, should I really get 0 kills that game? I don't think I should. I think that's definitely a big problem. It doesn't reward skill. Dead by Daylight simply rewards just being lucky. Are you lucky? Are survivors good? Yes. You lose. Are they bad? You win. That's simply all Dead by Daylight is these days. But balancing around the top level will basically mean that Dead by Daylight retains players. That if they stop catering to people who just buy Dead by Daylight, play it about, leave the game, that's who Dead by Daylight are attracting. If they balance around the top, they're going to keep these veteran players like me. I'm going to keep playing the game, because why should I leave? If I like Dead by Daylight, and it's balanced, and I can play it and have fun, I'm not going to leave. But I am going to leave if I just keep losing because of bullshit. Like, I didn't even think, like, that a lot of people are liking Dead by Daylight these days. Scott John is not liking Dead by Daylight these days very much. And I can see why. The same reason me. Not just am I sort of burnt out in the game, but it's just frustrating. I never lose because people are better than me. I just lose because I just got generous to shit, or I got a bad map, or I got like bad RNG with a loop. Like, I'd love Dead by Daylight if I said I lost because they outplayed me. I lost because in the chase they were just way better than me. I would love that, but that's not the case. What's actually happening is I'm loading in as Huntress and I get Larry's and the survivors do generators and there's nothing I can do. You know, I'm getting de-striked by people that I'm not even tunneling. People are using dead hard and they're just, you know, they're extending their chases. There's nothing I can do. What can I do against a survivor who runs early? I take 20 seconds catching up to them, I hit them another 20 seconds catching up, they get to a loop me around that a wee bit, they mess up, they use dead hard to rectify that mistake, and then eventually all the gens are just done. I'm not getting outplayed. Like in Apex, if I lose, it's either because it's like one of two reasons. Either I simply just didn't hit my shots and the guy I was shooting hit his shots and beat me, that's getting outskilled, or I got third partied, which is just unlucky. But that doesn't happen all the time. So this is sort of the conclusion, and that's that Dead by Daylight, I think, does need to balance around the top, because it will die if it doesn't. Most of the complaints you're seeing these days, are, other than like performance, I'm talking about solely balance, it's because the top level is not balanced. There, like people say, there's no problem with a couple of decent survivors solo versus a decent killer, and they're just sort of playing around and having fun. But when people actually want to win, there is a big problem. When a god nurse goes against some shit survivors, they have absolutely destroyed. But when a decent couple of solos go against your average killer, they also get destroyed. I want it so if you're equal skill level to the survivors, you should win. You should win. Well, not equal actually, if you're like better than them, sorry. But if you're equal, it should be like a solid equal match. But that's not the case. I'm getting beat by people who aren't even as good as me, and that sucks. It feels bad. I don't like losing to people who are worse than me, because then I didn't lose on my own account, and I can't blame anyone but the game. So then I leave the game. People are leaving, and I hope you all sort of think about this video the next time that you do get bullshit about the game. But I will die if it does not start balancing the game properly around the top, which admittedly they are nerfing DS, so hopefully they do balance around the top. Thanks for watching.